All right, Coach, we're back.
Monday morning.
Yeah, you ready to go?
Let's go.
All right, we got a great guest on today, Coach Matt Sakis. We did a couple episodes already with some run and shoot guys, and this is also someone that comes from that long line as well of wide open offenses and a lot of fun and a lot of scoring, and he's been quite a few places, so he's going to share some wisdom with us. We're going to get some good knowledge and have a couple of good laughs along the way too. So talking some football. Without further ado, let's bring on Coach Matt Sakis. How you doing, Coach?
Great. How's your Monday morning?
That's it. What's up, Coach?
Nothing. How's everything?
Good.
It's going good on my end.
Well, we're excited to have you on. Talk about a lot of things with respect to football. Obviously, you've been quite a few places as a head coach, and so we'll be able to share some of that wisdom along the way on that, and talk a lot about obviously your high flying offenses as well. Tell everybody your background in coaching, playing, and the career and where you're at today.
I'll kind of give you the short version as I can because going all over. I grew up in Ohio, went to a small school very similar to where Derek went to school in Shadyside, Ohio. It's a typical Midwest town of, I think I graduated with about 58 kids. So that puts about 250 in the whole high school. And that's including middle school. But we always had 80 kids on the football team. Don't ask me how those numbers ever worked because it never really matched up. But, growing up with a father who was a coach, an older brother who played, I had no choice but football, no matter how much my mother tried to make us stray away and learn that other sport. My high school is one of the few in Ohio that still does not play that other sport. So it's neat when I go home and they don't even know what a soccer field looks like. And I don't know even that's politically correct to say. So my upbringing has been mostly all about football. A lot of it was, my father was a head high school coach in two different schools in Ohio. So I played at Shadyside, obviously. Then I went to, had a brief stint in the Navy. And then when I came out of the Navy, I finished up playing at West Liberty University, which is a Division II school in northern West Virginia.
Yep.
And I ended up playing strong safety. They forced me into the role of kicking and punting because the head coach at the time, his name was Larry Schenk, knew my brother from recruiting my older brother and said, genetically, you're our kicker. And I'm like, okay, I guess that works for me. It has nothing to do with ability. Just my brother was a kicker, therefore I am. So, I did well enough. I'm not going to go into that, but I also had the opportunity to wrestle. So I did both through high school and college. And then my first job was with Don Nealon as a student assistant in West Virginia. And then I was offered, after a few months there, I got lucky enough to get offered a full-time job back at West Lib. And it was neat. The irony of it, my first job, I was coaching tight ends and tackles. And I haven't used one in 25 years of coaching. So I've used tackles, although people question if I ever have a true tackle because they're usually converted receivers for me. But, so that was my first job there. And then from there, I got the opportunity to go work for Walt Hamline as his defensive coordinator at Wagner College. And that kind of was the first time for me to be on the East Coast. And my recruiting area was New Jersey, north of 80. And I kind of met a guy who at the time was the head coach at Butler High School, Bob Jones. And he became good friends with my older brother, who at the same time that I was at Wagner was at Hofstra. And he wanted to put in the offense, I think it would have been 92 at Butler High School. And he was totally going against what they did in the past. Derek can attest to this. In fact, you go to that town, I don't know if they remember anything but Power Eye Jack Davies, because what he did was legendary there, just like Bob Jones. And so Bob kind of, made friends with him in 92. And then from Wagner, I had the chance to go work with my brother in Emporia State. And we had a good run. We had a young man, Brian Shea, that set all kinds of national records running the ball in a one-back spread, triple shoot, we called it. Although there was very little option, it was more run and shoot. as a defensive coach, I used to argue with my brother, it was more wing T than anything else. And to this day, he'll deny it. But
Yeah,
it is a little combination of run and shoot, wing T, single wing, kind of throw it all together. So it's a name that kind of just stuck. And then when he left there, I had the opportunity to go to Glenville State on my way to New Jersey, because as you can attest to, Coach Shu, it's like when you get to college, you never know how long you're going to be in any one place. Unless you're the head man, you're never calling your shots. So my wife, I had a 1-year-old at the time, and I came home to begin the family move to another college. She kind of like just flat out told me, we can't do this. You do this, I'm doing this. And it wasn't what I wanted to hear, because I've been more about family my whole life, whether it was my brothers or my own kids. And she goes, well, while you were at spring practice, I took a job for you at Jefferson Township. And I said, first question was, where is that? Because I had no idea if it was Jefferson, Missouri. And she goes, no, the principal there is friends with your buddy, Bob Jones.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, marvelous. So I made her the deal that I would go check it out. And I flew in with my father, because he was the only resource I had for high school football, because my 3 brothers are all working in college. And he came, we saw it, and I came back and I was honest with her. I said, you're out of your mind. There's no way we can do this, because, we grew up in the Midwest, living in New Jersey, coming from Kansas via West Virginia. It's a little more expensive to live here.
Yeah,
Right.
slightly.
And I said, we're going to have to change our lifestyle. You may have to, God forbid, go back to work. And which she had to, which is fine. She sucked it up. We did it. And then probably after my first shellacking against Don Smoling at Lenape Valley, which I believe was 49. Actually, they're probably still scoring, and this was 99.
Yeah.
And I actually, that loss kind of made me realize, even though I was broke, making no money, I was actually found my calling, because when you, as a high school coach, when you see the kids' faces, win or lose, it's everything to those kids. And college is more business. I don't care what level, whether it was D3 Wagner or Division I Kansas State, where I had a good opportunity to go help out in the off season. Kids are kids. In college, they just kind of play the game, move on, you come the next morning, watch video. But when I realized how dejected those kids were, then I said, okay, it's time to like roll up the sleeves and kind of try to turn this thing around. So,
Right.
and that's kind of how I ended up at Jefferson in a nutshell. And it's always, and through my high school career, there's always been that connection to Butler, and really Bob Jones and Jack Davies, who I know Bob Jones very well. Jack Davies I've only met, but a lot of it, everywhere I go, the Butler connection has kind of always followed me. And, it's an honor just to be considered. Here's Derek, a Butler dude. And I never had a chance to coach, but used to joke, I love coaching guys like Derek Depascale when he was a player. A little nuts, a little loose like me, spoke his mind, a little arrogant even when he shouldn't be. But that's Derek, and that's what makes him, special. And,
Very special.
And, so I went from Jefferson. We were there. We went that 0-10, 99. And then 4 years later, we're playing Mount Olive in a snowball for a state final that, again, we should have won if I listened to my coaches, but I'm Greek and I don't listen to anybody but myself. And then from there, I kind of did the move to High Point briefly.
Ooh, that was a quick one.
And that was not Jim Matsakis territory, I should say. It's that's a hard transition, because they were different type of kids, good kids, but it's a wrestling community, which, they can build it up around there, and they have had success. I know the guy that came after me, he was a good friend of Derek. He did a great job, got into the playoffs. And then from there, I went to Butler. And it was neat having Bob Jones as my athletic director and kind of being at my first true, this is a football town. This is what we're looking for. And then since there, whether it was West Orange, Pope John, Livingston, and now back to Jefferson, I've kind of been looking for that lightning in a bottle that, Butler had trapped, because it's a unique place. There's not many places that, you have these little kids that, and they are little some years, that just come out and lay it on the line every Friday. And when you're talking to them, they literally buy into what you say. And like I used to tell the coaches, if they do something wrong, it's because we're teaching them the wrong thing. because Butler kids, one thing about they do exactly what you tell them, and sarcasm isn't always the best weapon there because
you're gonna get it. It's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, they're little. I had the chance to, go away to camp with them before I became the coach there.
Oh shit!
I know. Yeah, they probably thought I was a little twisted with some of the things I say and do, but it all goes back to the beginning. Midwestern. If you were in my basement 2 nights ago, and it's right next to me, me and my youngest brother, who just took the job at Caldwell, were watching my dad's 1959 Powhatan High School video, where he's going from double tight straight tee to run and shoot empty. And he literally did something that I'm going to incorporate this year, and I'm putting it out there for everybody. He would actually motion everybody to a shift. And then once they were set, the quarterback would start motioning backwards, and they would snap it to him in rhythm while he's dropping back. And I'm saying this is 1951. I've never seen a quarterback motion backwards and get the snap while he's motioning. And my father passed away this summer, and I told my brother, it was like, why didn't he ever show us this? Because I want to know, his quarterback's getting to the launch point so much quicker. It was just neat. We're watching 1959. And it's like, holy cow. Again, I know it was a gimmick to them, but I'm going to put it in.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time you did something like that.
We're not motioning to the line. We're motioning backwards, so I'm pretty sure it's legal. But
so he doesn't have to drop. He just turns and throws.
That's exactly what he was doing. He was just like quick game through the roof because he's snapping it. The ball's in the air when he's like at 3.5, and he's catching it at 4 and 5, and he's set up and the ball's released. So it was something that we saw. And again, everything I've done, I've stolen. So why not steal from my own dad? So that's kind of moving ahead. Derek's laughing because it's true. Everybody.
Well, the question is, how'd you watch the 1959 tape? Do you have a 60 millimeter?
I have 2 of them.
You have them.
So hold it here. This is.
That's great.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
I didn't mean to disappear, but
no, that's okay.
2 wheels.
There you go.
The old metal containers, and I have like 200 of these, and I have a lot of old Hayden Fry Iowa cut-ups from using the stand-up tight end. So we've kind of been always researching. It's like
you guys are taking a deep dive. Louis trying to figure out what he's going to do spring football wise.
That's it, and I'm looking to mix it up again because
you got to change something up.
Yeah, I talk to coaches all the time. I think anybody that comes out and runs a power eye nowadays might have the advantage because nobody knows how to line up to it.
Right.
We've talked about this a ton. Like it went one way for so long with how to adjust. Like when nobody could line up to any of our spread stuff. Right now, everybody's doing spread, so everybody can cover spread. And now you go back the other way, and nobody knows how to line up and like tackle a guy, tackle to tackle.
Well, I have no idea. They'd be shocked. Double tight, 3 backs. I wouldn't. Time
Dave
out.
does it. Dave does some crazy stuff.
He does more wacky stuff than I do. I just hand the ball off to my tackles and stuff and throw them screens.
Well, yeah. When you do any kind of unbalanced stuff, like whether it's backs or somebody over, or nobody adjusts to it because they're waiting for you to line up and spread. And I obviously line up and spread. My whole thing always has been multiple sets, right? Because like there's some guys that know how to cover X, and then they don't know how to cover this, and it's like line up and spread, and then all of a sudden you see they're covering everybody. Then you line up in like a jumbo package, and you realize that you have more guys on the right side and they have everything even. You're like, oh, okay, that's great.
Yeah, you're right. I laugh sometimes at what some of these coaches will try to do to stop us. Derek, I think, was coaching the one year a team had the audacity to try to play us in a 2-9, I think it was.
Yeah, I remember that.
They only 2-9. They only had two defensive ends, and that was it.
It looked like an umbrella.
It was like I think we're still running the ball. It was the weirdest adjustment, but
well, that's one of the things I had to I had to tell Dave, I had 1,000-yard back almost every year I was in the run and shoot. And it was like, teams just don't understand. Like the whole premise is running the football. That's the whole thing to it is you want to run belly. You're trying to run pop out. You're just coming downhill. And everybody just looks at it like, oh, spread scores points, but it's all run game based.
Yeah. And what's neat is, again, the Butler thing of just by lining up in it, for some reason, I think they think it's Conklin, Davenport, Medine. They don't realize those guys graduated in 94 and they're not playing for Jim Matsakis. I got myself and a couple other guys that look like me out there that we have no 4.4s. So it's always been, and when we do, we're usually pretty explosive. But, our identity has been, and Derek kind of said it, to run the ball. My first year at Butler, we had a kid, Greenberg, Jared, that he, we got over the hump with him. I think we ran the same play 52 times.
Yeah.
In the playoff game against Booton.
But even your first year, even you're back at Jefferson with Robo, he was a monster. This was a guard made running back, Dave. Dave, I always talk to you about because of your skill set for you were a fast guy but a bigger guy. You'd have been the perfect super back in the offense for what you did.
Yeah.
It's that guy that's he trades it. He can be your outside linebacker, but he was probably a guard at the point. But if you can have the guy that can break away into that next level and bang his head on the goalpost too, as well as run a gap, it's over.
Yeah, that's two good ones.
In high school, I played in the dot the I era.
Yeah.
Dotted the I. I was at the top. I dotted the I. It was way back, 7 yards.
Right. That's right. Now, it has a whole different meaning to me from Ohio, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can't go there.
You dot the I, you better be the president or governor.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. That's true. That's Ohio State dotting the I right there.
That's it. But we've never, they equated to that. You'd be like a slot for us. Those are our tailbacks.
Yeah.
Right.
And, Robo was a kid that he actually was our guard. He wasn't even joking, but the irony of it is we moved the kid. It was the superback to guard. We moved our outside receiver to tackle. And then we moved our guard to running backs. And I think he ended up with 1,600 yards. And his key was he was a 5.4 40 downhill maybe. And but he would run over. He was with anybody in front of him or anybody chasing him. It was a very odd thing. It was hard to slow Rich down. And but he was that was a perfect group. I mean, it's with any system, whether it's run and shoot, wing to your eye, the right group of kids makes it look a lot better. And there's in certain pockets of kids in every school I've been at that buy in. And nowadays, that's the hardest thing to do is get kids to buy into whatever we're doing. And because everybody's, pulling the strings. And the biggest thing people say is being 20 years between being at Jefferson, what's the difference? And it's the specialty of other sports is the big. I think I had one basketball player on my team.
Right. Which is where Jefferson back then.
So even at Jefferson back then, you had too.
Yes. Yeah. Jefferson's become, I had two basketball players. One of them actually started for the basketball team. The other was just trying out. But the time before, we had probably half the starters or more on it. And baseball was the other one. I have one baseball player now, and a lot of it has nothing to do with football. I think we get a negative rep for my coaches or the coaches that were ahead of us because, there was a time football coaches beat their chest and better be in the weight room, better be here. I think a lot of what we do offensively as football coaches everywhere, I think we do adapt to other sports. I don't know if they reciprocate.
That makes a lot of sense.
I practice at 6 a.m. all summer. Everybody thinks it's cool. It's neat. It is. We get it done early, but the only reason I do it is so no other coach can claim I'm taking time away from their sport, even though football's next. So it'd be I want to say to the spring sports, how about if I just started having football practice in March?
Right.
How would you like it? And
right.
I always lose that battle because, again, I'm not a Jersey guy, but there's more guys from Jersey that believe the same way I do. And
I mean, I remember that you're always as a football coach adapting to, DJ Nymphius was the first to tell me, I saw it firsthand as an assistant way back in the, mid 2004 when I was with him the first time. And he went in the morning, and his whole philosophy was you go in the morning in the summer, and then nobody could say, oh, you kept my kid out of basketball summer games, right?
And then you don't even have to fight that battle.
You don't. No, you don't. Well, that's the thing. And then that was kind of how you slowly got them on your side.
Yep.
which was hard because you're 100% right. That's always been a hard reciprocation. I was like, I'll always do that from now on in the summer. And then even the workouts in the off season, like have a morning group, like that way, like kids who play multiple sports, there's never a conflict, and I always say to them, like, hey, you have a game this day, you're not coming in to work out, right? Like, I don't know if you have like a track meet or something like that,
baseball,
right?
You're the pitcher.
Yeah, or a pitcher, right? You don't come work out that day. And that was how, but you're right. It's there's very little like the baseball coach will come in at 6 a.m. so you can have football practice at night. Like that's not happening.
Sorry, Dan.
That's not happening.
I want to be at that school.
That's that. We might have to go to Texas, coach.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is the baseball coach at Jefferson now played football for me back then.
Yeah, you probably see her.
Jason Kalish. So he's like, but he remembers because he played both sports. So he's like been very good.
Right.
And so that's been neat. But you're right, though. I just most places don't have that luxury. And when you look at like the old Big North, I don't know if there's any kids in that league that do both multiple sports other than track. Because everybody's doing track now to get their official times and all that. But at the end of the day, there's at the best level in New Jersey, they are specializing, and it's hard.
One and done. I mean, those guys
and it just trickles down to us, just like the transfer portal did, and all that garbage. Eventually, it makes its way to us, and that's the part of the sport that I guess I'm trying. I don't like.
Yeah, that's the hardest part too, because football's a numbers game. You need numbers. Like, there's no way to get around numbers. Like baseball, I guess. Essentially, I mean, even if you didn't have all the guys you want, you probably could get away with having 12, 13 guys and get out there, right?
Oh my
gosh. But you can't do that in football and have any level of success. I remember my first years at Saddlebrook, like our varsity was 25 guys, and we would be like, okay, if this guy goes down, like, all right, this guy's moving to this position, and this guy's moving from wide receiver to left tackle, like that's what was going on. So that's why numbers are so important, and it's the pressure on football for some reason only continues to rise as opposed to like drop.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think a lot of it is, and I used to joke football is a captive audience. I used to joke with my players and parents. I don't know if they got offended. I don't really care anymore, but it's like, I don't think it's a real sport if you don't have to pay admission and one of those things. And I said, there's not many sports you have to do it. If I can walk in for free, I don't consider it a sport. It's an activity. Because and again, part of it's sarcasm, but I think that athletic directors look at us or people in general, is what's the one thing people want to read about football? That's like the buzzword. So if I can say the football coach gets this, or the football program gets this, or their booster club does this, my answer usually is form your own and quit laying blame on football.
Yep.
Because it has nothing to do with football. Because I'm at a school now at West Orange where the soccer coach has it going on. And I talk to him every week. And it's like weird to say I'm a football guy, but I've become good friends with Doug Nevins. And, to have the success he's had at that level of a public school that he can compete. It's sports are sports, and he recruits kids in town, and he does a great job. So I try to reach out to all sports and realize that he gets a bad rap in West Orange because people think it's a soccer town. It's his town. He's like the sheriff in town and can do what he wants. And Darnell does a good job battling that and is creating his own identity, which is nice because I've known him since I recruited Irvington back in the early 90s. So it's kind of neat.
I think it's interesting too, right? Because football is always like, it's just, look, you have a good football season and you have a good school year, just in general, because I just think that with the amount of guys that are on the football team, right? Like just in sheer numbers, usually they're usually the biggest sports team in the school, right? They're usually the biggest guys. So obviously, if you have a football player in your class, everybody knows who plays football within the school, and they either get a good rap or a bad rap, and that kind of just goes across the board. But if you have a good one, man, your school year in general, every sport across the board is an excellent year.
Yeah, I think the model program, and I'm going to upset a lot of Butler people, is Mountain Lakes. I mean, you look at
100%.
being in that district, I mean, I look at it as it's 2 seasons. It's football state finals, lacrosse state finals.
That's
and
what
it's
it
like,
is.
to be able to go there, I'm so jealous that, Fusco's kind of built on Wilkins, and, they got it going. And then in the winter, they're competitive, but for a small school, they do it the right way. But you're right. Football gets you halfway through the year.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's what the kids get jazzed up for next. But, I know a lot of places, it's just how you take it and your personality. I think, Fusco up in Mountain Lakes does a good job. He's active in other sports. I think he's a golf coach.
Yep.
And that's and he's got a perfect personality for that also. And, he took the reins of Mountain Lakes and did a great job, and really sets the stage, or really eliminates the stage for any excuses, because he kind of took over a legend and created himself one. And I kind of respect that. Haven't been a guy that's moved around a couple of times.
Right. And I think that's one of the hardest gigs to do, right? You don't want to be Bill O'Brien after Joe Pa. You want to be James Franklin, right?
That's
you want
right.
to be that next guy that gets that job, because shit, man. I mean, this guy that just took over for Saban, good luck, buddy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how you gonna pull that off?
No, it's like taking over for Coach Schuman.
Yeah.
Well, if you take it over for Coach Schuman, you'll have much more reign to be able to do whatever you want. They don't let me do nothing when I'm at head coach, as Derek can attest.
No, I know.
It doesn't matter how much I win. He has.
No, you're right. And everybody's opinionated on things they don't have a right to be opinionated on.
Well, I always get, because obviously I run a business, right? So, and it's in sports. And so, as opposed to that being looked at in a favorable manner, it's always looked at for some reason in a negative manner. And that'd always be the battle I fight, no matter how much you win, no matter how much success the kids have. It's just always an ongoing battle. And it's just because it's something that people, obviously if you're a teacher or an administrator, it's something that's usually foreign to how someone's able to do that. Right. So
yeah, jealous.
Maybe jealous, but
I
definitely
know jealous.
Yeah. And that's always been, I remember when I was, and Derek was shocked, is when I was at Powell Park, when we were really starting to turn it. And we ended up going to state championship the year we did this. I bought the team Nike uniforms because we had no money to get new uniforms. They wouldn't let us fundraise. So I went out and paid $12,000 for Nike uniforms, both whites and blues, I think it was. We were. And I remember when I did it, they're like, you can't do that. I'm like, wait a minute. I can't go and buy uniforms for the team. I'm not asking for anything. I'm handing you new uniforms. So when it doesn't pour, when it rains, we used to have, the uniforms from the 90s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when it rained, I remember us losing a couple of games because our guys, our little skinny guys, were so soaking wet. And
yeah, those things were heavy as hell to be
heavy. So I got them. It was like the first time they ever had like the tight forming, like kind of like wicking uniforms.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it's crazy when you see kids, how they respond. You talk about how kids respond because it means so much to them. Yeah. They went out there that first game and
they ran a little faster, that's for sure.
Well, they were running faster, and I couldn't believe just the enthusiasm. It was like
jazzed up.
We're a different group. We're a different group of guys. This is a different team, and that team ended up going to all the way to the state championship. But that, like, sometimes administrators lose sight of like the things that get kids excited, right? Like it doesn't have to be much. It really is as simple as like if you've had uniforms that are the same for 30 years and now you change uniforms to something slightly updated, that could change a kid's attitude and pride in their hometown,
Absolutely.
It's funny because it's not like it's not, as an adult, you don't think of it as being that big of a thing. You're right. Like, hey, work hard, do the thing. But like to a kid, it means everything. And I think that's the thing in sports. That's a lot of that kind of stuff gets lost because you see all the crazy stuff with like a media and transfers and all those kind of things. But fundamentally, like a kid just wants to know who cares about them? You know what I mean? And a symbol of caring about them sometimes goes farther than you could ever imagine. You know, just like, you know, coming off the field, they have a hard practice and say, "Hey, man, tomorrow's a new day. You'll be okay." And that makes a big difference to the kids. And I think that part about kids, to me, has never changed. Like, everything else has changed around them, but the fundamental, just wanting someone to like coach them and want them to give them a chance to be success. I think that hasn't changed. Now, the parents around them, everybody, all the other stuff, the social media, absolutely, that's a whole different world. But talk about some of the things that you really like. That for some reason I'm frozen on here, but at least you can hear my voice. So I'm a statue officially. So Derek knows I'll have to log back out, log back in.
That's all right.
But what have you found that's really like the changes that you like about football? Things that, you know, because you've seen a lot. You've done college. You know, I actually had a kid, believe it or not, when you said West Liberty, I said, I can't believe he went to West Liberty. I had a kid, Charles Simons, who played on that. It was our star in that championship team.
He went to West Lib?
He played, yes. He was a safety at West Liberty, and he did do sports there. He was like, yeah, he did. He was a safety, and I think he threw the javelin there too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, his name was Charles Simons. He played there. He went to JUCO, and I think for 2 years because something grade wise, and then went to Lackawanna, and then he was on scholarship at West Liberty.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, I'm still kind of friendly with guys there, and when I get a chance to go back for spring ball, I do. But probably the biggest thing that's changed is just high school kids just recruiting, which everybody talks about. It's just not, you know, this generation of kids. It's now we're in minor leagues for junior college and D3 because, you know, the experience is just not the same as what it used to be, where kids would set up their 5 official visits and go check out colleges knowing that they were the only option. You know, now it's, you know, you could be recruited by everybody, and then the next thing you know, somebody transfers to that school and the kids are left out. So that's probably the number one thing that has changed. It really doesn't make it enjoyable for anybody, but kids are still kids. I said that in the beginning with you guys, and, you know, the whole thing about, you know, I'm not going to change who I am. And that's probably been the number one reason I usually leave places is that, as a coach, you come times where you feel like oh, there he is. Yes,
I can move.
I was going to say something, but it would have been inappropriate would have been an Easter reference. So I'll leave it like that. You know, that's I laugh about this, and Derek will appreciate this one. That's the Livingston effect on me, where I've become oversensitive to the most minor things. And that's really one of the things you were talking about that's changed. It's, you know, the idea of joking around with kids about anything. It's usually not even the kid you're joking around with. It's the guy next to him that tells mommy, and next thing you know, mommy's making a TikTok video about how bad your play calling is and how much better she would be. And the funny story about that is 2 years ago, I had a mother that actually did that. And I went to her place of work at Starbucks, and I made a TikTok video of her at work. And so we kind of, it was kind of funny. And I just came in, I brought my 2 little ones. One was at the time, well, now they're 6 and 4. So at the time it would have been 5 and 4. And I brought them in and I said, just be yourselves. And it was just funny videoing her lose her composure and then me heckling her to keep her on her toes. And afterwards I said, how does it feel to have somebody in the background questioning your every move? And then I still don't think she got it, but nor do I care. But it's just, that's probably been, you mentioned social media. You know, the first thing my teams do anymore is I collect cell phones going in the locker room because kids just want to do stupid things. So it's like, you know, and that's not just in class, but, you know, again, that's being a football coach, and you appreciate this. We are controlling these kids 24/7. And
that's what, that's
in other sports, some guys that do it the right way are the same way. But, you know, if you're in another sport, sometimes coaches won't talk to you until preseason. You know, football is the ones we're worrying about grades for eligibility. We're selling them to colleges. We're making sure their physicals are done because if physicals aren't done for us, they can't play any other sport. So it's just become I think we should all be administrators and be in control of our own destiny in New Jersey, because at the end of the day, I've seen some great coaches lose jobs for being themselves, whether it was Ed Sadlock at Cedar Grove. And, I think that was a travesty what happened there over
we had him on.
With Rasiopi. Those are some very good, in fact, great coaches that were run out of town for no reason other than being the same way they've been when they built those schools into powerhouses. And it's just like parents forget. And I always, a little bit of joke, a little bit of seriousness. I always say, the U.S. needs another war. It's a joke, but, right. We need something to just test our values. And I'm not going to preach, but, we're losing sight of, when kids come to school and we have Veterans Day and there's 4 of them. When I was growing up, I think every male teacher I had in the 80s served. And not saying you have to serve, but it was just a different dynamic. And and that's changed. And I guess I'm fortunate to be now back at Jefferson, partly because Jason Luciani's not leaving Butler, and partly because I'm glad to be back at a place where I know, kids are still brought up the way that I was brought up. And funny story is I bring in, like everybody does, and I bring in an old guy, Scott Paltos, who trains our kids.
Oh, Scott. I know Scott.
And I've
love him. Scott.
Yeah, he's insane, but he's a throwback trainer, and there's a lot of great trainers. I've used Brandon Wood, who's awesome.
Brandon Wood's great, yeah.
Awesome, but they're totally, if you've worked with both,
totally different
end of the spectrum. And just like his coaches, we realize when our message is falling on those ears, it's time for us to leave or change the message.
Yes.
So I bring in Scott, and this will give you the reason I'm back at Jefferson story. And we're doing training, and we invite the 8th graders up because we're just doing some form running. And he's doing this one thing where the kids are running, and then when they get to the end of the court, they have to break down and end in a good position. Everybody does it. This 8th grader, who's probably 6'1", 230, big kid, still finding himself, he can't slow down. He goes face first into the wall. Like he runs, he doesn't even slow down. You just hear him hit the wall, come down, eye puffs up. The mother comes out. Again, this is an 8th grader, 13 years old. Mother comes running on, and I'm thinking, oh no, here we go. She's going to see all these documents, want to know who this guy is, who am I? And I laughed because her first reaction was, and I'm not going to say a kid's name, but she's like, you're the reason me and your dad drink. I said, what? And then she started just getting on him about, she was laughing, but she was getting on him about, just paying attention to detail and doing what the coaches are telling them. So she's like a throwback in that you made a mistake. You look foolish. Where in other towns that I've been at.
Yes. Oh, hell no.
What kind of drill is that? They only have 15 yards to slow down. And it's just like, okay, and that's a Jefferson. Again, they're not all like that, but it's new to me coming back last June. And, but she that's like a funny story that I think if I told there or Shadyside, Ohio or Butler, those 3 places that I've been, they would all, a parent there would have a very similar attitude. Absolutely. And probably the king of parents like that is the guy is your co-host, his dad. Like, I remember stories of Derek, his dad clearing the field with a bench from the sideline when he was a young guy. And it was warranted because I've been around his father. So, usually when Craig snaps, there's a good reason. It's not, just because he wanted to snap. So it's like, that emotion was brought up through his son, and there's a lot of parallels. And I even told Derek and his dad this growing up in Derek that I've seen the kids I've coached or even my own self. So, probably the thing that keeps me going is the fact that kids, and you said in the beginning, kids are kids. I give a kid a cool long sleeve tee with a nice logo. They're rocking out at school. They're happy to be part of the club. We give a kid, a steak dinner for pick sixes. When we do that at the end of the year, the kids like it. Because like uniforms, I've only been able to do that once where somebody gave me enough money to buy uniforms. But I actually remember when you did the uniforms, believe it or not, because everybody, and again, I didn't know you from Adam, and us as coaches, I always joke, we're a lot of like women in a beauty parlor. We are a little gossip. We just go. And I remember somebody said, "You hear about Schuman down at Powell Park? His wife went out. She's loaded. She bought all these uniforms." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? First of all, how do you know his wife? And why do we care?" Yeah. And I said, and when they were saying this to me, I'm like, one, I wish my wife had that kind of dough to give me.
I wasn't even married then, so it definitely wasn't even true.
There you go.
That's the funniest part.
So that is funny. So
I was single then.
So that it was Robleski, your athletic director?
Robleski was my athletic, because he's from Jefferson.
His son was the running back.
That's his son who was the running back.
So right. and that's the other thing about North Jersey. There's so many connections.
Knows everybody.
You know, like when I always laugh because everybody will say, "Oh, how many wins you?" Whatever. Everybody coaches. You have over 100 doesn't really mean anything. I'm more enamored with the coaches I've lost.
That's funny. Yeah, that's true.
You know, like when I look at my first loss was to Don Smolin, and then I showed up the next week, had to play Vic Pananastro.
Yeah, how many times? Yeah, that's
it. And then at Butler, you know, they have the chance to go against Wilkins in Mountain Lakes or West Orange Johnson at Ridgewood. It's like I've lost to probably guys with over 2,000 wins, and that's neat.
I'll tell you what's funny too is like, so Roblet, he's from Jefferson, and his son Servy lost his son in.
Yeah.
We give out his number every year.
Yep, and he's a great guy. But I mean, we used to sit and talk because the guys above him would just. I mean, anytime he brought me in the office, it was someone from above him, like about something I was doing. You know, I'm like, and it's funny because yesterday, 2 days ago, the day before Easter, I was over at my wife's, a friend of hers. They lived in Edgewater, and we used to get kids from Edgewater because Leone and Powell Park were together. So we had Edgewater. Charles Simons was from it. We had great athletes from Edgewater, with Leonia, and then Powell Park. Right, they were all combined. And we were over in Edgewater, and after we got like done, I drove over to the Powell Park high school because I mean, the kids. I have great memories, you know, from the kids, but our practice field, people don't even, because our game field was Veterans Field, which was down below the county park. It's like turf. Which is a really nice place. Like they would have the Catholic schools play there. And
we did some New York, New Jersey All-Star game there once.
Yep, exactly.
Remember? Yeah.
Yes.
That's when we had Noah Brown.
Yep. And then but our practice field is literally a patch of grass next to the school. And I go over there and it's the same exact thing. And we in the beginning we had a hard time getting good, and they had this like steep like hill. It goes to the like highway above it, and it's a grass patch. And I just started like this whole thing. I'm like, you know, even though we had a great weight room, because Ron Panasini had built this great weight room.
Strength coach,
he built this great weight. He was great. I mean, honestly, Ron Panasini, Robleski, they were the reasons I lasted for 7 years, because I would have lasted 2 if it wasn't for them. But we had this hill. I said, you know what? We're just going to run this hill 5 times before every practice. And so we're going to know what it's like to start slightly winded, right? Because that's our only hope is that we could build some. So we started doing it. And next thing you know, like as it started to slightly turn, it took a long time, but slightly turn, you didn't even have to do anything. The kids, I used to say, you don't go onto the grass, and we had one line, but it wasn't a football line. They had a baseball practice field there, so it was a baseball line that went all the way down. And I said, if you don't go inside that line until we're ready to go, so they would stand outside the line until everybody was ready to go, and then they would go sprint to the hill. They would sprint to the hill, and that's how they started. And it was like, see, those are the things I thought.
Those are the little things.
Those are the little things like. They kind of got a little success. They started to get some pride in, and a little success meant going from not having a varsity program to winning one game, then from winning one game to 4 games. Like that was like, you know, it's funny because people talk about like, obviously when you've won a lot of games, you're like, okay, but like at some places, like winning your first game is a big deal. Then winning 4 games is a big deal. Then, you know, I mean, the state championship. Playing in the state championship was monumental. And you know how everybody knew us? This is the funniest part about the uniform thing, because it was so it was crazy how like you heard about people like were like, you know, what we did with the uniforms.
Yeah.
We also took the eye of the tiger from LSU that's in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
And we put it in our colors on our helmets. So I had it custom made. They put it on the helmets, right? So I said, you know, it's the eye of the tiger, right? So we always said we didn't have two eyes looking at you. We had four, and it wasn't from glasses. So we had the eyes of the tiger. But people used to think it was bug eyes, because when I put it on, I never realized, you know what I'm saying? I never thought about it. So they were like, they had these wacky helmets where they got these bug eyes on it, but it was the eye of the tiger from the middle.
Yeah, but you look at that now, and that is stuff that
wild.
If it was now, you'd have, you know, 100 million likes or,
yes,
or however many views. I mean, this is what the society we're talking about now. That's all these kids care about.
Yeah, you must say hello.
It was fine, but anyway, it is so interesting. You talked about like how Jefferson still has a lot of like American values. I mean, for lack of a better word. American values. Like people don't want to talk about that anymore.
But we're going viral now. You just said American values. Watch out.
American values. Now it'll be banned on YouTube.
Again. Demonetized again.
Please don't demonetize me again.
Yeah.
I know, it's like I had to slightly conform. I'm like, I won't curse as much anymore.
Yeah.
So like, but those things to me are important. See, football, one of the things that I noticed this, it happened in college. So you probably know Mangino, because you're right, who was the Kansas coach.
Who's Bear? Yeah.
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 Right. When they ran him out of Kansas, to me, this is how I looked at it. They ran him out of Kansas because Mangino did not look the way that football coaches look now, like for the most part.
Correct. And I've said that. Yeah, I've said that to Derek and my own brothers. Like the idea of an overweight coach is no longer. Like
we've talked about it.
There used to be Bear, the guy at Toledo. Like Bielema was big, and he's like he might be the biggest now. And
right,
the Maryland coach who coached Rutgers for a while.
Oh yeah, Ralph Friedgen.
He's a fantastic coach. They ran him out for the same reason. So, but that to me is like that's some of the things that like the pressure that gets put on football. That is how they try to chip away. Like, how do you chip away at American values? Well, football is like associated with America. Correct. It's like it's the sport in America, and in the rest of the world. Like, I mean, I laugh when they have the like America. I don't know, these like World Cups of football where basically America rolls out a bunch of guys that like barely played at D3, and they beat like, I don't know, the Japanese team for the world championship, you know,
by like 60,
by like 60. And those guys played at like, what's the school they played at Castleton, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, that's our reference.
There we go.
They went and played, they started at Castleton, and they ended up rolling up the Japanese national team. But that's the thing that attention. So when I saw that happen with Mangino, I said, geez, this guy turned Kansas. Kansas was the worst, the absolute worst. And he turned into his program, and he was rough around the edges. He was a big dude, and basically administrators said that we don't want to look at this anymore. That's what I always thought about it. It's like he was a genius offensively, one of the geniuses offensively out there. Obviously came from the system that you got, you know probably very well, Mike Leach, and your guys' system. And I thought like that was the first time. That was like 2009 maybe or something. That was the first time I really was like, oh, football. I mean, I felt it changing a little bit, but football really changed. And obviously the concussion thing was just the pile on. That's how you piled on football.
Yeah.
That was how you piled on football. And now, we talked about this with the referees, with Mike D'Ambrosia, like the hip drop thing. It's all these things are coming into football, which the kid who's a tough kid from Butler, okay, I'm not talking about the super speed demons you guys
Yeah,
had
no,
back
no.
in the day.
Those guys are gone now.
Yeah, those
Brian
the
Twitter.
kid from Butler.
Yes.
They're working those kids out of opportunities at the college level, right? Like if you say to somebody in college that kid's a great football player, like you know what, Derek, you posted it about remember the kid we have that plays at our 7-7 club from Randall, great out. The first thing I thought, this is how crazy the world has changed. Yeah. The first thing I thought when Derek posted this kid is a phenomenal football player. Even the kid's very fast. The first thing I thought is that people are going to look down on this.
When I posted it, I said, shit, I should probably take it down. We have a kid, 2027.
He's a great athlete.
Pat D'Angelo from Randolph. Stud, right? Alabama's going to be so happy he has this kid. I mean, throwback, tough kid, both sides of the ball, offense, defense. He may have had more interceptions in the 7-on this weekend than he did touchdowns. But just the kid that you say, all right, I need to play, throw him the ball. Doesn't matter what we're doing, get him the ball. He's that type of kid. But like Dave said, if now I post that, they're going to say, oh, he's a football player. That means what? He's probably slow, probably doesn't run too fast. He's not very big, right? He just knows the game and can get by, right? So I get what you're saying, Dave, 100%. I said it as soon as I posted. I said, shit, I know.
It was the first thing that went through my head.
That's crazy.
And the kid he started as a freshman around. He probably runs already a 4.6. His vertical has to be. I mean, he goes up and he must be
he floated the other day.
34, 35. I mean, it's incredible what he could do.
Oh, yeah.
But that was the first thing. That's when I was like, oh my God, it goes into my head now.
Yeah,
like,
that's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? And that's how football, and the NIL and all that other stuff kind of is trickled down to to high school in a way that is well,
you saw it when you were at Pope John.
Yeah.
Just the amount of, because listen, those Pope John kids weren't getting what Bergen, Bosco, Joe's, those guys were. You know what I'm saying? And it's just not close. It's that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, but now the NILs, I know there's even public schools that
100%
that have them for sure.
Yes.
It's just like, one of my friends I think he said he has a $10,000 bankroll. Doesn't sound like a lot, but if you start giving kids, you want to say hello? Go ahead. There, Derek.
Hey, stud.
Say hello to Derek.
Hey, stud.
Okay, go get your iPad. She gets her iPad.
It's another kicker.
Now that we're we have to delete that scene. My wife knows my babysitting is
an
iPad.
Don't worry, I'll handle the wife.
No, I could care less. Derek, back to what I said. Back to what I said in the beginning. I'm too old to care.
Teacher.
Yeah.
Well, that's why you're my hero, Coach, more than anything else. You're an older dad, as I'm an older dad, and so that's my favorite thing of all. More than your football accomplishments and everything else.
Yeah, just shows you how
you're an older dad like I am. It works because I'm an 8-year-old. So.
Yeah, mine are. What's Maria? 27. The youngest is 5.
There you go.
That's a big gambit. But my wife is like, I couldn't coach if it wasn't like Aaron, like her being a Division. She reminds me of this every day. She's the only Division I athlete in our house.
Yep.
She played soccer at Villanova. And then she also likes to remind me of me being like Marv Levy, always getting there and losing. Being 0 for 4. And her being the soccer coach at Butler, and she won sectionals. And when she was at Butler, they had some good softball teams and soccer teams. And she would always remind me that football wasn't real because we were treating sections like they were state titles.
Yeah.
And, being in the section didn't mean anything to her. But so she keeps me on our toes. And that's what's neat that keeps the competitive nature going, even in my own house. Like, my most critical person is my wife when I come home, and she's questioning, like, why did I do something, and then and usually she's kind of right.
Yeah,
so she can take out the passion or just the stubbornness that I know I have when it comes to play calling, because like anybody that's played for me, if I ask them I give you $1 million to guess what play is coming, 99% of them know we're running belly, and then or I'll yell a keyword that switches it to our version of jet sweep pop out. So They know it. I don't care. And that's the part of, again, being back at Jefferson, that once those kids buy in, like you said, they're the key. When they believe in what you're doing and they realize you're there for them, not their parents, good things happen. And some places, unfortunately, the parents think you're there for them. And that sucks. So it was neat to go back, and like my coaches, we took over the booster club. So my booster club is the coaching staff. And
that's great.
It's awesome. So we still fundraise and do stuff like that and have a couple parents on our board. But at the end of the day, I said, I'm doing what's best for your kids. It's like not just the senior class, and the entitlement that goes back to what we said about specializing in sports. It's there. And I try to discourage kids from specializing in football. Yep. Because I do believe that you need to do everything if you want to be really good down the road. If you can play other sports. I mean, some kids may be.
Yeah, some kids are just
too big, like that offensive lineman from DeSoto, the 6'8", 420-pound kid that committed to Syracuse or something.
Yeah, this weekend.
Yeah, so I think he committed. But what's funny is over Christmas break, one of my former linebackers in Emporia, his son is starting guard for the Jets. So they surprised me over break. So he showed up from Texas, and with him was his son with the Jets, the other one who's the left guard at DeSoto. And he was 6'2", 320.
Yeah, he looked little out there.
Yeah, he looked little, but then he showed me a picture of him next to this other kid. Yeah. And I'm like, what? Like, yeah. I couldn't believe they were in high school, but I couldn't imagine my Jefferson kids with my biggest lineman could play for my brother's sprint football. Like I just couldn't imagine competing with those kids, but that big kid probably can't play another sport.
Which I think is a Northeast thing as well, too, right? Because a lot of Northeast, here are multiple sport guys, right? Where wrestling is big, basketball is big, right? In the spring, you got all these other multitude of sports, whereas, California, Texas, Florida, football is all year round because they have spring ball and they have all that stuff. And we talk about, Georgia all the time. I mean, look, we talked to Marion Bell, like, he made a move, took his kid down there to Grayson, and now we're going to LSU.
That's right. And he knew that. And in fact, what's funny is when he left, I remember telling him, Marion, dude, you're being the dads we talk about.
Yes.
He's like, what? I said, here you are telling me your sixth grader is going to be a Sunday player. What planet are? And he was 100% right. Like the kid is going to be a Sunday player. And, Marion was absolutely right on, even when he goes. I remember him training all my kids at Union High School in winter. I mean, that kid was a committed coach. He's doing great things down there. But, it's tough anymore to get the kids to buy in, nor do I want them to buy in and become only football. I mean, that was a Butler thing. But the football players at Butler, like Derek, would do other sports because they had fun playing them. Like Derek never went into basketball thinking they were going to win 30 games.
We were hoping to win one, bro.
Yeah, but they were just playing because they were a bunch of little
just what we did.
Getting you trouble short Italian guys running around. And it was like, we're just going to have fun. We're going to be tough like football. And whatever happens, they had a great coach. I don't know if Jeff Todd was your coach, but
the best.
He was a great coach in basketball. And it's just
what's crazy was when we were at Red Bank Regional, the basketball coach there had also played for Coach Todd.
Oh, wow.
So he came down and checked it all out. I mean, dude, you want to talk about a poor guy? I don't. Yeah, he bought us pizza one night because he's like, you guys, we just got in a brawl. I'm never going to coach here again. Let's have a pizza party because I'm fired on Monday. So congrats, guys. Appreciate it. But what a great dude. But you're right. And you're coaching lacrosse, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah. I'm the head coach at West Orange, baby. Watch out. Dial it up. Here we go. Again, I don't mind it, but again, it's more about the kids because they haven't had a coach in the building in 6 years probably. Oof. And so I told Stefan Zakella, the new AD, that if you ever need a guy, you can probably find more qualified people, but I'm in the building and I will get the kids better. And if you come to our practice, a lot of our plays are the offense. You'll hear me call it hook, curl, slide, Dutch. And those are plays we run offensively. And That's my offense. So if you see my lacrosse team line up in like 3 to the right with the quarterback, it's really rip 60 slide. The kids are like, what? I'm like, we're picking anyway. It's just legal in this sport. So it's like, I kind of and I told Darnell that to get more of the football kids out that, I'm coaching. You look at my polls outside of driving sleds, we hit bags. That's normal. We use the agiles like linebackers. We look like DBs because those are two sports that go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So you look at Ridgewood, great football, great lacrosse, Mountain Lakes. Sometimes a lacrosse team helps you compete in football like Del Barton.
Yep.
You wonder, I never would have bet $1 million that they'd be as competitive as they are in that league when we played them when I was at Pope John. I'm like, there's no way, but they made a commitment and they're doing the right thing there to get kids in to compete in that big North.
$23 million facility.
Which is insane.
Well, Rampo's the same way with that, with the lacrosse, and probably Rumson also, I'm guessing.
Rumson's amazing.
Yeah.
Look at Manasquan.
When you talked about like how I was kind of getting to think about it, and I've thought about it this way before, but all the other sports help make you a better football player. But the other sport, if you play football, it doesn't necessarily make you a better baseball player, I guess, if that makes sense. So
no, I agree.
So what happens is I thought about this because I obviously have a kid that's going through it, and I see it now.
And he plays everything.
He plays every sport, but it's all making him a better and better football player without him actually having to do a whole lot of football. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes
100%.
I agree 100%.
But but like if I don't have him out there dribbling basketballs all the time,
it goes away
all the time, and then we go and play a game, 2 weeks from now, and he hasn't done a ton of that, he won't look as sharp in basketball. So it's one of these things that with football, every sport helps you as a football player because football is a sport that even at the lineman level, right?
Mm-hmm.
General athleticism, power, speed, and change of direction, all that kind of stuff, which you can get in a lot of other sports in the off season, all contribute to you being a better football player. Whereas if I'm a baseball player, if I'm not taking my swings in the batting cage, that's a difficult thing. And I think that's one of now what I've heard coaches at the college level in those sports say that the reason why they don't want them specializing in just baseball from the time they're little is that as they hit puberty, the fact that all they've done is work those same muscles limits their upside in baseball or even lacrosse or even basketball is a little different because height is a big thing.
Yes.
But a lot of those other sports, because once you hit puberty, you're really, your size and your athleticism makes a big difference, and I could really get those skills refined much more quickly. But the parents think about the completely the opposite way, right?
Yeah.
Because they're like, I got this basketball game 2 weeks from now, and my kid hasn't dribbled. And now if he's not dribbling, when he goes out against XYZ no-name AAU club, which, I don't even know the name of my son's AAU club. I can't even tell you the name of it, So he plays, but like XYZ name of the club. And, they're worried about that particular game. And that's one of the things, even like I've talked to my wife about. It's like, you know what? Like we play so many games in these other sports.
There's never practice.
Well, yeah. And if he plays great one day, awesome, enjoy it. The next day he plays bad, like this is just going to be another game 3 days.
That's right.
Right, it's not like football where you have to wait, right? You basically practice, 4 or 5 days for one day, right? And that's what you tell them. Like I tell the guys in the very first practice, look, man, this takes way too much time for this to be a hobby for you. So if you ain't all in, like go over there, dude. Like just, you don't need to be here.
It's too much time. It's probably the only sport that you spend more time practicing than playing.
Right, and that's why you gotta love everything about it. And I think like I loved the process, right? Like I loved practice. I was told Dave thinks I'm crazy. Like camp was my favorite time of year.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to go back.
All you do is just, dude, it's football morning, football midday, football, everything, football, sleep, wake up, football. Like I love that part of it. And
Mhm.
some of these guys, they don't even understand how to practice.
No,
And it's a lost part of it
it
that
would
I
not
think a
know
lot
what
of these
Midnight
guys don't
Madness
get.
was for my kids. Like you go up to like Wayne Garino, who's the AD at Montville, and say,
You
"Do you
know, Wayne,
remember
we
the
met Wayne.
Midnight Madness?" And it was a bowl game we played. Literally, we woke them up at 11:45. Played the JV kids played a game from 12 to 1, and the varsity kids were the cheerleaders, and it was fun. I videoed it, and it was at camp, kind of like what Derek said. But those are things that have gone to the wayside.
Right.
I'll
Now you don't
probably,
even have 2 days.
yeah, you're right. It's more the college 3-hour, 5-hour rule. Not that
Yeah.
everybody follows it,
Nope.
because you go to the town right next to me, and they're doing triples in the summer. So that's the other thing, that it's like we all know who's doing it, and everybody wants to say it, but I guess there's a difference between Matt Sakis doing it and other people, because it's funny. Everybody knows where the things are happening.
Right.
And they're afraid to address it because everybody's upset. I don't know what it is, but the only thing in football that can compare to what you said would be kicking, which Derek did, as far as this thing that if you don't do it regularly,
Right.
it takes you a while to get back in that mood, because baseball,
That's why we got crazy
basketball,
traffic.
yeah, everything else is, it's an acquired skill. Like,
Right.
I think there should be with parents, and I always use this. I laugh at the amount of kids that, dedicate themselves to wrestling in hopes of getting that 25% tuition scholarship. And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And I say,
They don't get that.
I've coached
no
many
clue.
state champs. The best kid I ever coached is kid Dan Valamont, who was a NCAA runner-up, went to Penn State. It took him several years to get half a scholarship. And he was a 2-time state champ. And then I have kids, and Derek will know the one, but I'm not going to say his name. That was the only reason he got a scholarship to Pittsburgh was because he was 6'5" and 240. And for some reason, the college coaches thought they could make him a better player than us, because they just look at the metrics.
Yeah.
And I said, well, watch this game. This little, 5'9", 150-pound kid just ate him up. Yeah, but he's long, coach. Okay, good luck. He made it 1 year, transferred. Yeah, good kid. But that's where, again, I think sometimes in the recruiting process, colleges aren't listening to coaches the way they used to. It used to be, I called a buddy.
Oh, and definitely and Dave and I talk about this all the time, because this is the world we live in. Like, the high school head coach is almost cut out of the mix now, because with all social media and the content and how these guys communicate, they either just go right to the kids or right to the parents on Twitter or whatever social media thing it is. Your high school head coach is kind of just there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, these guys don't want to, like I signed up to coach football. I didn't sign up to send messages back and forth with coaches on, this guy here or this guy there. Like, they don't want to put the time in. You're talking about down here, you lose Antonucci from Mid-South. He just left. Cosentino from Shore. These are guys with over 20, 30 years of experience gone out the door.
Yeah, you can't replace that experience either. And it's like, and some of us also screw ourselves. Again, I don't want to bash coaches, but I can. It's like where we oversell kids, not knowing who we're going to have in the future.
That's it.
So then a situation will come up, and sometimes we're right on. But as coaches, we tend to buy into the hype of our own players.
Of course.
So you need those, people. And it's like, I remember when, Josh Allen was struggling to find a school. And I never forget when John called me from Montclair. He's like, I don't know what's going on. I've called these schools, and the best he can get's like a partial somewhere. And I'll never forget calling Banaszak. He was the head coach at Duquesne. No, Robert Morris. And I sent him the video. I said, Coach, can you watch this kid? He's a rare talent. He had his recruiting coordinator call me back and say, if he'd be willing to walk on, we would take. I said, walk on to Robert Morse? I said, did you look at the kid? He's a little light. What can he play? I said, I'm just telling you, he played against me, and he made the first 3 sacks, scored the first 80-yard touchdown on a go route, and he's the best player I saw. Yeah, he's little. But then it's like, then I'm finding out that a lot of it had to do with nobody knew who he was, or we were overselling previous kids from that school to where people are like, sure, coach, whatever. You said that about so-and-so 3 years
And
ago.
how often do we talk about that, Dave, about endorsing a certain player?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just giving this name to you, like, because now my name is attached and it
Correct.
burns my kids in the future if I now, send this guy some schlup. And it's like, dude, well, the last time you sent me, remember we got worried about that when we had one of our players from RBR go to Monmouth for, a day and a half. And then it was after we had put the
great.
work.
Now we sold him and now now nobody's going to listen to us.
Then he sold us.
It's ridiculous, but I just remember that happening. It's like,
and then he ends up as an All-American at Kentucky.
And he's making millions now. But it's just tough because we do that. And sometimes we just need to be realistic to these kids, but we're almost afraid to be honest with them. And
that's true. And I think that college football is such a cycle of where now the turnover is so high, especially at the lower levels, meaning like GAs, assistant coaches.
By the time you recruit a guy, you're gone.
So the turnover is turnover is high, obviously at the highest level, but the turnover at the position coach level and it's so high that those guys won't stand on the table for a kid unless it's slam dunk. So that part puts a cycle that's tough to it. When we had Adam Brenneman on, I thought one of the interesting things in the discussion was that at least at Division I level, the highest level, they're going to go to that NFL format where you have general manager, player personnel, and having been an agent I was an agent for 6 years, NFL agent, and the thing that I liked about it, having obviously been a high school coach and dealt with college coaches, and then been an NFL agent, dealt with the thing I liked about it was this. It was so much of a business, meaning that like guys' jobs lived and died by being more right. You know what I'm saying about a player. And when they took chances on him, there was 5 guys in the personnel department looking at him, not like a tight end coach who really likes this kid, and then he makes a mistake, and then he gets fired because he fell in love with the kid. There's 5 personnel guys looking at it. So if they bring in, like my guys are mostly, late round free agent guys. If they brought my guy in, they like double checked it over and over again. You know what I mean? No matter how much I sold them, they still went through that process, and they still had the coaches look at it too, right? So they said, "Hey, coach, is this a kid that you think you can coach?" Blah 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 blah. I think at the highest level, now the lower level is completely different. I don't know how that's going to work out, but at the highest level, that will, in the long run, maybe create a situation where you can get your kids a little bit better evaluated. Not necessarily from the coach may not touch it as much, but at least you can have a few people looking at that kid from the lowest level to maybe a higher personnel guy and say, okay, this is a guy that should go on our depth chart. Now let's move from here. Whereas now, because the way that transfer portal is and there's no real personnel departments and the coaches are stretched in every capacity to the max, so many things are falling through the cracks. Like I brought guys to people that they were like, I didn't even know who this kid was. He was great. Oh, he's now on our radar. Like, I'm like, wait a minute. Like this kid has 8 offers. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like a kid that was a no name. Like, I didn't realize he has 8 offers already. And because they're so stretched at looking at everything that maybe, and I'm not 100% certain on it, but maybe that model could help a little bit with the recruiting process because, the greatest thing about recruiting in the old days to me was, whether it was Scott Lakatos, whoever the guy who always did jersey for Rutgers or UConn.
Scott did it for years,
Yeah, the same guys. You knew those guys, right? Like that guy came in. My last couple of years, my last head coaching it was RBR. Just in the 2 years, it wasn't the same guy I was dealing with the next year. I was like, holy. Meanwhile, like it didn't matter what jersey Scott Lakatos was wearing. You know what I'm saying? It was still Scott Lakatos over and over and over and over again. So you develop those relationships. So when you had the players that came through, or same thing with Flood and all those guys. But the same when you had players, they knew you so well.
Right. It wasn't so much about your players. Like I know how this kid's getting coached.
Correct.
Look, I'm sure whenever your brothers are on, recruiting stuff, like there's certain schools they always hit regardless of whether they have a dude or whether they don't. You're going to go to Ramapo. You're going to, you know what I mean? You're going to stop in Mountain Lakes, depending on what your division is or whatever. Like, you're going to hit those programs. I don't know how much, I don't even know how much of that works. These guys are in, they're out. They're
now
there for
it's a picture
sprint.
stop.
They're there
Now
for
it's a picture stop. That's what it is now. It's a picture. XYZ school came into my school. They're not recruiting any of my kids.
That's
okay?
right.
But hey, here I am.
Boom.
Oh, Sacred Heart coach is here. Let's take a picture.
Next week
it's as bad as all the offers. It's like I think that's where the NCAA, they got to do something, because you want to talk about, I don't even know how you word it, taking advantage of the inner city kids.
Yes.
It's sad when you see Penn State offer kids that couldn't play for me, but you see a kid tweet out, God bless to receive an offer, and they thank Allah and God and Easter Bunny, whoever they want. And it's just like, you're really this kid? Like, how did this happen? And it could be the kid just saw the coach walk in the building and put it out himself, and nobody verifies it, because I don't think you can. But it's like, a lot of times kids will say they're getting offers, but the only reason I'm bringing that up is I have sophomores that, like, one of them plays on these 7-on-7 leagues. He went to a tournament.
Right.
Phenomenal player for me. And he's always, coach, where's my offer? Where's my offer? So-and-so is on my 15U.
Yep.
And he's got 3 offers. And I'm saying, dude, I can give you an offer, but it won't be real.
Yeah, nothing's committable.
Well, I'm the same way. And this is where I know I'm different than probably 99% of New Jersey. Like, I will not nominate a kid for the Super 100 if I don't think he's one of the 100 best players in New Jersey.
Exactly.
Like, I don't think it's right that, you pay $100 to be a member of this association. Therefore, I get a kid that I could say. And I know that's going to, and I've never done it. You can ask, why does Jim, because top 100 is pretty special. Not my $100. It's like, that's a joke. And it's just like, we've watered things down because coaches are afraid of parents being upset.
That's exactly right. Everybody needs to be.
Who does a great job? He was. I think he's still in our section in Central Jersey, but I loved him because he just like cut through the mustard on this. Was Cardi from, I think he's Bound.
The younger brother.
Yeah. So he was in charge of it, and he would go, "Hey, the kids that are going, I need the guys that are going Division I and FCS.
Put them on scholarship."
Correct.
Right. And it was that way too. It was scholarship first. Then if the kid was a walk, right? So because he didn't want any of the BS, right? I would only go, and Derek would know this. I would only go if I had a guy that had either basically an FCS or because I would tell him, you're not getting a guy on there, and I'm not going to sit there and argue about my kid that's going to a Division III school versus this kid over here who had 140 catches. Okay, great, great coach. He had 140 catches. So I said, unless he's that kid, I'm not doing it. I'm just not, going to go and but he was great about it. I was always great about it because you get to the end and that's exactly what happens is that like,
my guy rushed for this.
There's two Division III kids. Yeah, there's two Division III kids, which is fine. But the coaches are arguing their stats over it. And it's like, they don't know each other. Nobody knows who, and we're going to vote on who nobody knows.
Well, well, I'll tell you, 100 catches at Butler is probably a little different than 100 catches at Bergen.
True.
So, and again, I feel bad, but it's true. That's like one of the things, because I'm getting some blowback from my parents who are like, why didn't we get anybody on this team?
Yes. Well, how come
I didn't nominate
the North-South game?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to tell you, 100's elite. You're saying he's one of the top 25 in North 1. And then you look at the list, and this is where it does come back on me. And my players, we play against some of these kids that make these teams.
And it's
like, we smoked them. Like, I kicked his ass. Why am I not on it? Yeah. I go, well, because these 30 guys in the Big North are better than you. And it's like, it's not, they should just call it a who paid your dues all-star team.
That's
and go from there because it's a shake.
It's which coach is on the committee? All right, he's got kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's like let's keep it real. I mean, I try to, and if they look, I just don't nominate to nominate. It's like we do that.
You want something behind it, like there
yes.
should be something that
if you
says,
make it for Jim Matsakis,
yes,
I believe you're one of the top 100. And again, that's minor. There's so many other things that are screwed up. But
I wanted to shift gears because obviously the title is scoring against any defense, right? So, which by the way, we've talked none of that at all, which obviously makes it way better. By the way, but I do, and Derek will tell you, like we'd rather just sit up here and talk about the stuff we like to talk about. Obviously,
people are like, "Oh, what are we talking about? What are we talking about?" I'm like,
everything but exactly how to beat somebody on in a game. But no, I did want to talk about because obviously, Derek knows this. I'm so fascinated by the run and shoot. Like, Derek knows if he has any guy like the click that you guys are in that to talk about the run and shoot offense. Like, it's always to me like, first of all, the personalities. From the guy who I coached with, DJ Nymphius, to you guys. Like DJ's like
we've had
DJ.
I know DJ.
We've had Wimberly on. We've had Nymphius on. We've had Coach Mick on. We had Tony DeMeo on. So
Tony Bone, nice.
Dude.
He's
2 weeks we have Tony DeMeo and Nymphius at the same time.
Together.
Yeah, wow.
They wanted to do some. Nymphius wants to do a thing with Tony on at the same time. So I don't even know if we'll even talk football in that conversation.
That would be funny. Tony used to make when we did film exchange with Washburn, we'd have to give him the video and cannolis. that was always Tony's thing. So I remember we would send the GA up with a box of cannolis, and it's like, what? But Tony's a good dude.
Great.
I love Tony.
We didn't even get. I mean,
it was tough to prepare for when we played him.
Oh yeah,
about
the
gun triple, the unbalanced. Like, and again, I was a defensive coach mostly in college, so unfortunately, that was the famous. We're playing Washburn, and literally, neither team could stop neither team. I think it ended up like 49-47, whatever it was. It was a shootout. But I remember we're winning by 2, with like 1:05 left. We kick off to them, and my older brother clicks over on the phones, and he's like, "Jimmy, you need to let him score quick." I said, "Excuse me?" He goes, "I got it figured out. We need 47 seconds to score. So either get a turnover or get your kids off the field." And I'm like, okay, he's got to be kidding. I've never heard that. So I'm like, I know you're being a jerk, man, and we're going to stop and watch this. As soon as I say that, they hit like a 40-yard play down to the 20. So now I'm like, okay, we're in it now because a field goal we lose. And my brother's like, no, we can still do it. There's 43 seconds left.
Let him score.
He calls a timeout, brings the defense over. He says, okay, I want everybody off the field. I said, Manny, you can't take everybody off the field. The officials come over. They're like, Coach, get your guys. He goes, no, I want them to score. And the official looks at him and goes, you really don't think they're just going to run and take a knee and run out the game and call a timeout? He goes, I don't think they're smart enough to do that. Talk about Tony. So I'm like, Manny, we cannot do this. So long story short, they get down to the 1-yard line. They call a timeout. They go for the game-winning field goal. And a kid from Ohio, Joe Kaminsky, blocks it. We win the game.
Yeah.
But it was like, I tell kids all the time, if I ever click over, say, let them score, I mean it.
And I've been a part of it.
And I was a part of being on the defensive side of the head coach telling me, let him score. We didn't, but I got lucky. But that's always been our mindset, is like the reckless abandon, and kind of like we are a clique, like Wing T's a clique. Everybody's a clique. And
we've had the Gallaghers and the Sadlocks.
Well, it's
we've
funny.
had those crews of like,
I went to the Wing T clinic in Pittsburgh. You would have thought it was Easter and Jesus Rose, me walking in, and like Gallagher and all these guys like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I play enough of you. I might as well figure out what the fuss is. But it was kind of like his podcast. There was no football. All we did was drink and tell stories, which again, for me was great.
Right.
And I like that. But no, it's pretty cool to just to be able, like DJ. I remember actually it was Derek's year in the playoffs. He was an assistant for Al Diet, and I remember him changing his hoodie.
He brought it up.
He was the signal guy, and he thought we were stealing signals. And literally, he went in at halftime and put his hoodie on the coach next to him. And I'm like, that could be the funniest thing I ever seen. So he went from a black to a red, but he was still signaling. But he had the other guy, and I'm like, if you don't think we know who you are, or I give
first off, you're like 6 whatever.
Yeah,
like,
you're like the tallest guy on the field. I go, and second, if you think I can look at your call and call a defense, and the Butler kids can line up right,
no,
you're giving us way too much credit. And
that's so funny.
But he's a good dude. I followed his when he left down with he did some great things.
Yeah, Riverdale's always been has been a great place,
and he's had some great players that have come through and like.
But listen, even he talked about it like because now he's what he say, Dave, 2 years out of the school, retired, 1 or 2. This will be his 3rd season, I think.
I think this will be his 2nd full year retired.
So he just talked about like, I mean, he
coaching,
just felt like he didn't have the pulse.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an awesome gig.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, but DJ, if you know,
he's
DJ,
a track guy.
DJ not being able to be a teacher in the school,
right?
Is like he's glad he's not teaching, but that was like his whole. I remember that was his whole like thing. That used to be how so he's trying to adapt to not being in the school as much.
Right. I mean, what did he say? He took
like the same kids.
He took like a 2-week position to get back in just to get the feel of it again.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, it's tough. It's like me being out of the building. It's a whole different.
Yeah, that's got to be really hard at Jefferson. Because you're still at West Orange, and then you're going.
You only see the kids and that's one reason we go night workouts, Tuesday, Thursday. So I see 90% of them.
Right.
So, but that's the hard part. You don't see them day to day. They'll talk with their teachers when there is an issue.
Right.
Which is a positive too. Like that, trust me, there's schools I wish I didn't talk to teachers.
Yeah, no shit.
It's a positive because again, add that to the list of things. Guidance counseling is another thing that we do. That
you're a guidance counselor, you're a caseworker, you're a freaking speech
concession stand,
you're a freaking PT guy, OT, like you.
No, you name it.
Coach, tell me on the run and shoot side, offensively. Tell me about what you try to do, like the versions of that you're running, right? And we talk about Derek talks about this all the time about how it doesn't matter how they line up, right? You guys are going to be able to move the ball against them. You have your adjustments for everything. Talk about like the kind of with the run and shoot and how your version of how you run it. What you're looking for as far as trying to take out a defense and really to dissect how your guys can go down the field.
Yeah, I guess probably the easiest way is, we're like RPO run game, I should say, where a lot of people are, but we practice it where every single play we have, and we always practice against what works, but every play has a sister play that works if they do this. And we kind of practice so haphazardly, meaning I just tell the defensive staff, you have 17 kids. You can put them all on the field. You have to have 11. You can line up wherever you like. The only thing I care about is that you keep the safety integrity there. Like 3 high, 1 high, 2 high. Everything else, I don't care about the box. And everybody's like, doesn't that screw up your numbering? Well, it doesn't, because we're more about exploiting where you're not. So like everybody knows we run belly, jet, sweep. And again, within that, I can do one signal, and it could be any one of 4 plays. It could be an inside run right or left, an outside run right or left, or a pass action off of it. And I've done nothing but make one signal. So it's kind of empowering. That's the difference between me and the coach I played for, Ty Fleming in Ohio, where if he called 23 power, and you were in double eagle and you had a walk-up linebacker sitting in that 3 gap, you're still running power and praying. You don't care. You're praying your guard, even though he never would get there, would wrap around. You're running it because you had blind faith that your head coach was calling a play that was right, when looking back, he was usually wrong. Like he would just force it because we were tougher. I'm not that way. That's the difference. And I think a lot of it is being coached that way. We teach another way. We're like, yeah, I'll call belly, and there will be games like when we had Rich Robleski, or I would tell the quarterback, I don't care if there's 12 guys in the box. You're running belly because Robo will make the first guy.
He's getting 3 no matter
always.
What.
And he'll make a 3-yarder, a 20-yarder.
Yep.
And we teach that from the first day of camp when we're not even in pads, the ability to go from belly to pop out on nothing more than snapping the ball. Like, we don't even tell the line sometimes. So when we look at every one of our run game, whether it's under center or shotgun, everyone has a sister play. So if you're going to line up to defend and shotgun, you think we're running counter, and you're going to overload the counter side, we'll come back and run speed option weak. And if you try to be balanced on both sides and everybody gets creative, I'm going to have two overhangs, then we're going to fake it and run quarterback midline. So, but it's nothing the kids don't practice, because in practice, we go about a play every 12 seconds, because my pet peeve are coaches that do this or twirl whistles. And I'll fire coaches. I have done it everywhere I've been. I'm like collegiate, where like every year after my first year, I usually get rid of 2 or 3 coaches. And it's not that they're bad dudes. I just say, you're just not Matt Sakis guys.
Right.
And that's a good thing to some people. You don't have to be. But if you're going to talk to one kid, you can't work for me. You got to coach on the fly.
Coach on the fly.
Yep.
Put the kid out, put the kid in to replace, and get the kid back in. If the kids understand that's how we coach, then
they go quicker, right?
So my run and shoot thing is the thing that I did get from Coach Leach, and a lot of it had to do with going to clinics. And really, it was the clinics you had at like 2, 3 in the morning in the hotel lounge when Coach is having that big lipper, and you're just saying, what was it like to coach at Denmark? And you'd be like, bro. And he would just talk to you and be like, okay, that's cool, but this is where we had to, get the timing of the routes. And when the quarterback's foot, he has to have his first read on this step, second read on this step. And then if it's not there, run. That's high school football, because I don't have a line that's going to ever give us 3 seconds, ever.
No.
If I can't create 3 seconds by my run game, it's not going to happen. So everything we do is predicated off of the timing of being able to go 1, 2, 3, read, 4, 5, throw, 6, escape. And we practice it and teach it, and the kids adapt. But again, it is the run and shoot scheme. So when we run smash concept, it is smash. I don't give it double numbers. I teach the kids words because I'm a word guy.
Yep.
I'm going to call curl. And a lot of it has to do with, I don't have kids. I've never had a kid go Ivy League. So I don't have Ivy League players. So I'm not going to be able to get there and go over every dynamic, but I tell the outside receivers, if I call hook, you're running hook. If I call curl, you're running curl. If I call slant, you're running slant. We make everybody else think. So when it comes to putting kids in a position to make a play, we know there's a certain type of kid that can play outside and a certain type of kid that can play inside, and we don't get caught. I guess I'm the traditional, I don't label players. Like, we don't even go X, Y, A, Z. You're just either inside, outside, because with the Tony DeMeo influence, where I do go on balance, you never know when you're going to be the outside receiver.
Yep.
We will motion the outsides across, and now my inside is the outside. It's like, oh, no, am I the X? No, you're just a receiver.
You're just a wide out.
Yeah, my version is I'm not as into the labels as like my older brother is. My older brother had an X, Y, A, Z, super back E, and he would tag Y bubble, Y. Mine is no, because I don't have that luxury.
Right.
Other than West Orange, that's probably the only place where I could say I had 2 different groups of skill kids.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, the same kids play both. So our version has become really watered down pass scheme, but it's all timing that I like, because I know I'd never have a line that can do it. So, we read high to low 90% of the time, even though my quarterbacks like to go low to high, or they claim, where they just throw the ball deep and they pray like Derek Olamp, because we had a kid at Butler one year that could throw the ball country mile. Nobody would be within a mile, but he would release it.
But it hit the end
crowd go, ooh, and then they'd realize there's nobody there, and they'd let out a
Yeah.
And then it was like, Pete, come on. There, I gave his name. But that was his junior year.
Sorry, he's still coaching with you. It's fine.
Yeah, well, actually, he's a new hiree at Caldwell University.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah,
that's good for Pete, man.
Yeah,
that's good. That's
I
awesome.
ended up not conning, but I got 2 of my former assistants to.
How did you? Oh my God!
To have Louis. Louis likes. I know what system he's going to run. I said Pete's running it since 5th grade. He'd be a good addition.
Well, we know. Listen, it's the reason he didn't make it in college, because he can't figure out another system other than the run and shoot.
That's right. You don't know how to take a snap.
That's
but,
it. Yeah.
But no. So I mean, that's probably with the run and shoot. Our version, it's more run first and then shoot later because I've never, I don't think I've ever had that elite Scotty Brown that Butler had, or Jefferson had the kid McCarney that played at Colgate. I coached his older brother. And then he had a sandwich with the Giants, I believe. So I've never had that big time quarterback. I've had good quarterbacks within my system.
I've ever had one
that made it work. But like Pete was good. Wally, if we're going to Butler, was a system guy. So our system is built around the running backs and the slots. The key to me has always been, and everybody knows it, are the slot receivers. If you can stop my slots, good things will happen for you. It's kind of like.
No, but Dave, that's what I always tell you, right? I say, look, it doesn't matter what the defense does. It doesn't matter like what that is. Like we, as an offense, the mindset was always, I'm dictating to you what we're gonna do, and it's really not that hard. Find green grass, open space, sit down and catch a ball. Like it's really kind of
it's literally what you do with the kids in the spring. We want to I tell parents my first meeting, if I give a baby a football, what's the first thing they usually do? They usually try to either run with it or throw it back. So the first thing you teach is to throw, so why not do it? Throw and run. So it's kind of, we do our balls to glory, and that kind of sets the tempo, whether it's an offensive or defensive days. Every practice starts off with receiver basics, and everybody does it, whether you're the left tackle or the best receiver. We do balls to glory just to get our hands going. And for me, even last year, I had a kid that played receiver, quarterback. He ended the year at tackle. So it's like
same way we used to start our practices at RBR, Dave, like 10 lines across, dude, and everybody's throwing. Dave takes every athlete that can do anything and makes them like a pseudo quarterback. Like everybody can. It's just because in his situations, he's had so many times where his quarterback has gone down and he's looked on the bench like, well, who's the next guy up? All right, it's you. Everybody just becomes a quarterback. And it's genius because now, God forbid, those guys are all comfortable taking a snap and just doing whatever.
You know where I got that from? I got that from DJ. I'd never seen that before because when I was at Saddlebrook, we were Navy triple option. And we had literally.
You weren't there with Darren White, were you?
Yeah, it was with Darren White.
Oh wow, good dude.
Yeah, great dude. So and as good as he was a football coach,
softball.
He's the greatest. He's like he's like Bergen County's. He might be the greatest Bergen County softball coach in history.
He's up there.
He's up there. He's
won a lot of games.
The guy at Indian Hills, I don't know if he's still there. He was great too.
There's a lot of football, softball guys. Cosmo, I know he coached. LaRusso was Mickens was a big softball guy.
Mickens, big softball guy.
He'd rather talk about his girl softball players than his quarterbacks
or his horse.
Funny. It's so DJ taught me. I came in there and like one of the superbacks was throwing the ball. I'm like, why is he throwing the ball? He's like, you don't know who's gonna play quarterback. He's like, you don't know what's gonna happen. Take all your athletes and they play quarterback. And then you know what? If something happens, they go down. So one of the funny stories is I actually ended up, although I didn't get to finish with his career, it worked me out of there at Powell Park. But I had this kid, Adiami Da Silva, who went to play at Villanova. And he came to me as a sophomore he was at Paramus Catholic the first year. We played him at like receiver and quarterback the very first year, and we went to the state championship, but he was like kind of a part-timer. His junior year, which was the next year, we were on this like crazy run. We were just winning games by a bazillion points. And he was great. He could run and throw. But the kid who had played quarterback the year before he got there, was forced. It was our running back. He had to play quarterback, Taj Huggins, the whole year at quarterback. So we're playing Weehawken, and something happens at the beginning of the game. He throws a touchdown pass, but he goes down. And Taj Huggins comes in, has to go in the next drive. Taj Huggins comes in. He runs a zone read, pulls it, takes off for 60 yards for the touchdown. and Adiami's sitting in the silence. Oh, I don't know if I hurt my head or whatever. I'm telling you, as soon as Taj hit the end zone,
he's like, I'm good.
I turned to my right, and he's like, I'm ready to go. I'm like, you're ready to go. He's like, Ain't no way Taj is taking my quarterback job. Ain't no way he's taking my quarterback. That's exactly how he said it to me. Ain't no way. He says, I know what you're going to do. I know what you, as soon as he went in and scored, I know what you're thinking. I'm like, all right, get back in there.
Yep,
you know?
okay, buddy.
Yeah, but it was so funny because Taj could, like, he ran for, like, I don't know, almost 3,000 yards for us. He knew that, you know what, I'll just run zone read. I'll run zone read, and that kid will run for like a bazillion yards, and we won't throw a pass, even though the other guy can throw all over the place. And he was in there, and he's like, that ain't happening, coach. That ain't.
That's competition brings out the best, right?
Oh yeah, and that was one of the things I learned about it. It was like anytime something like that happened, you know, I always had a guy that could go in. Right. And he could do the job. You know, I might have to shift a little bit of what we're doing.
Right, you got to tweak some things, but at least they're somewhat prepared for it. And I think that's kind of like
and the call system. They understand the call system.
Group one, right? You're coming from small schools where, look, the guy who does this also does this, right? Like, you know, we talk about it all the time. Like, one guy's the punt returner, kick returner, punter, kicker. Like that's the school. Those are the schools you grew up at, coach. That like Schuman, you're a group one guy. I'm a group one guy. I think it gives us a different look when
I do that with I coach my son's 8-year-old team. Now they'll be 9.
Yeah.
I do. So we do the same numbering system, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same numbering system. They're on wristbands. But they probably could do it off like the words that we use. They probably could do it. I just I'm worried about some of the linemen, but the skill guys all know it. Like they're all interchangeable, and we would practice 4 quarters. Even though my son's plays most of the time a quarterback, we had 4 guys practicing quarterback, and the parents would be like, "How come he plays quarterback in practice, but he doesn't ever go in the game?" I'm like, "Well, that's he's my slot." Okay. And he carries the ball. But there was like controversies. So I'm trying to explain to them, you know, like you're going to see Troy line up at the 5. And when we do like our double tight stuff, he'll be the tight end and he'll run his little out route, even though he's our quarterback. And they're like, that doesn't make sense. I'm like, just trust it. And we're going to score points in bunches. And they're all going to, so all the running, like the skill guys, they all can line up a court. Like if something happened to my son or the second quarter, like the third guy could literally line up there and run our jet, you know, run what you guys would call our belly, and then he could roll out and throw, and he could do it. Like you'd be shocked because all of a sudden he'd come right out and he would just call it, boom, go.
Right. It wouldn't look like this is not supposed
it would look
to be happening.
No different, you know. Yeah. The only difference is maybe the talent level of the guy.
Correct.
But as far like he would look great, and people are like, well, why? I'm like, listen, you could teach it to any kids. I was doing wristbands and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with my 6-year-old kid's flag team when he was doing flag, and we'd go no huddle, and people are like, I can't get my guys lined up.
I think that's
hate me because I'm like, I can't get my guys lined up. I'm like, we're ready to run the play, Mr. Official. What are we waiting for?
I think that's one big thing too, that like, you know, you hear all these guys calling plays and the verbiage is just insanity.
They watch too much TV.
It's protection. It's this. I grew up, man, here's what it is. It's formation, which way the play is going, and then here's the play.
That's
one
it.
word, like, done.
You didn't have the poster call sheet?
Like, yeah, your play sheet's bigger. Like, what are we, like, how do you even, and then it's like, well, they only need to know this part when they hear it. They need to know this. No, I want everybody to know what's going on.
The Gruden nonsense, I call it the Gruden nonsense.
No, that's exactly it.
Gruden's, listen, everyone, he's a legend. I said, when I saw the stuff and how they call it, I go, I couldn't, I'm very high IQ. I couldn't remember any of that. There's no way I could remember that stuff. And I just think that, like, why is it so, like when I see that, when I used to watch the Gruden, and
keep it simple.
Like, why is it so hard? Why are we making it so hard?
No, it's crazy.
You know, like if your quarterback's a genius, great. You know what I mean? Like, great, he's a genius. Okay, you can give him more, but I can tell you that your wide receiver is not a genius. Okay.
Yeah.
He wants to know what route he's got to run and be able
Right.
to understand it quickly so he can play fast. The last thing you want is your receiver standing
Slow,
out there
You're
like,
right.
am
No
I
clue.
running a curl or am I
Yeah.
running?
Yeah. No, it's nuts.
It's funny because, and you see it over and over again. And what I love, like you talked about coaching on the fly, Derek. How many? And you know this because you fired so many guys because of this. That is my pet peeve.
Oh, I hate it.
Why are you not coaching him as we're getting lined up? He's like, no, I need to talk to him right now. I'm like, no, talk to him as he's
That's
lining
right.
up.
Yeah. Or
Tell him
take
what he's doing. John,
Or take him out.
Yeah, get his backup in.
get his
Just
backup
go.
in. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
No, it's crazy.
Listen, Coach Dunn, who I coach with from Old Japan, who's meshed like the wing tee with all the spread stuff, and he's done a great job when he had what was the quarterback that was the great athlete,
Old Japan's had studs for years.
Well, they had the kid who played at UCLA as a receiver.
Fuller.
Fuller. So the first
yeah.
Fuller, not the one that's in the NFL now. But
Yeah, no, the other one.
Devin.
that was when he went to gun and really started going to Hull and everything. And I coached with him in 2016. And when I was assistant, I was the special teams coordinator, but I was literally the running backs coach. And I was like, oh, you don't need to be doing anything. The running back. I was the linebackers coach and the running backs coach. I'm like, okay. So I would coach the running backs. And as they would be walking up, like this was expected, his system, just like DJ, just like
Yeah.
you're coaching off. As those running backs were walking up, like I would be correcting that where their eyes should have been.
Dude, on the
And, like,
fly, you got to move. You
how
don't
many
have
running
the
backs
time
coaches
to
don't
stop.
say anything? The kid
Wait.
runs the ball and like gets stuffed, and they just yell at him because like he didn't read the hole. Well, did you watch the way he was stepping?
Yeah, no, they don't.
It's like the guys that are coaching receivers and the kid drops a pass. You got to catch that. No shit.
Yeah, well,
Like, no shit.
there's a lot of pet peeves, but the other one I have is game day. And I'm really bad with coaches on this. I hate when we watch film as a staff after the game and we notice something in the first quarter and this kid's doing the same thing wrong
In the
fourth. And then you go up to the position coach and you're like, we were talking about this during the game.
why? Yeah.
It's still in. And why is he making the same mistake? And it's just like some coaches just want to stand on the sideline, wear the polo, and act, oh, I'm a coach. And unfortunately, you have to weed them out because the kids can sense that. And
They see right through
they
it.
don't deserve it. Kids want to be coached. It has nothing to do with winning and losing. If they win, they want to know that we were equal partners, believe it or not. I don't even know if that makes sense. But it's just like I am getting inundated with how many coaches just don't coach on the fly. And it shows game day because if they don't do it during the week, then game day when you're literally on the fly, the kids they think they panic. Oh my God, coach is now yelling at me. He hasn't yelled all week. What did I do wrong?
Right.
Correct.
Same.
Correct. Making those, being able to coach on the fly is
It's such a game changer.
such a big deal at high school. I mean,
Especially
obviously
with your
college,
time
all of
restraints,
them
you don't
are
have the
coaching that
time.
way.
Yes.
But in high school, they're not. You know why? Because I think a lot of it is, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, I think a lot of it is wherever they played in high school, okay, their position coach basically sat back and didn't say that much. And if they didn't play at college and didn't see their coaches getting, like my linebacker coach would follow me up the field. Like, he was following me. All of a sudden, you make a great play. I'm like, who the hell is on top of the pile? It'd be Vernon Hargraves. Vernon Hargraves would be on the pile. Like, that's what it was the fun. I loved him as my linebacker coach because it was just like an inside drill. If you made the correct read and you blew up the play and you got him for like
he was hitting you.
You would hear him on the top of the pile. That's right. I told you. That's right. You're wrong. I'm exactly right. And he's yelling it. He's on the pile. Like, you're like, can I get off this pile? He's on top of it. Like, literally jump on top of the pile. But that was what made him such a memorable coach. I wasn't shocked that he went to Miami and all the places he's been and had the success he has, because his ability to coach on the fly, even when he wasn't like the coaching staff he was at when I first got there was his guy. And then Skip Holtz came in. He wasn't really Skip Holtz's guy, but Skip Holtz kept him because he was so good.
Yeah.
And then eventually he moved on to Miami to get more opportunities. But like that's always if guys play in high school, even if they're at a great quote unquote high school program that had success.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
right?
I do.
They're still not even getting
they still don't get it. Like they don't get it. And they're looking at you. This is the funniest part. And this is why you have turnover in your staff, because they start looking at you like you don't know what you're doing. That's one of my pet peeves. You're looking at me like I don't know what I'm doing, and you're the one that actually has no idea what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's that's always a source of conflict. And those are always the guys that go to the administrators and complain, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They're
No,
always
absolutely.
the one that like, he wants me to do this and he wants me to, you mean I want you to work?
Yeah. God forbid. I want you to research it. I mean, I laugh because a lot of times some of the best coaches I had never played. They just researched their job. And I tell my coaches every year, I don't want you to know a scheme. I don't want that.
No.
I want you to be the best running back, guard, whatever you coach, you research it. And it has nothing to do with your prior knowledge. Just care enough. And I go, send kids videos, do something, pick a player, learn how he does it, coach it up. But these guys, unfortunately, now they don't make a lot, but they coach for stipends, and they
which
coach
is terrific too.
For the recognition teachers get in the building when you're young. Before they get tenure, I want to be the assistant coach. I want to break down video with you.
I call plays.
And then tenure comes in there and no longer, they quit coaching, they do whatever. And it's just like, I think tenure should be removed. If you got your job because you coached and you stopped coaching, you no longer should be employed.
That's a great point.
What did I tell Dave? How many times do I tell you, like, that's where I'm on such, like, and Dave's never been in, like, never taught or any of that, right? But he has an MBA. So he sees it all from a business side. He's like, yo, what the like?
But I want to run like a business. That's
this guy's not doing their job. You fire them. There's nowhere you can.
Well, we don't make a lot of money. You work 180 days, people. The teachers they're not happy. And now this will give me crap. If they're not complaining, they're not a happy teacher.
Correct.
It's like number one, all the happy teachers complain, and they all complain about what they don't make. And I'm like, okay, if you're I couldn't imagine being a regular teacher that clocks in at 7:30 and leaves at 2:45 or 3 o'clock, and then you're done. Like, you don't have nobody calling you. You're like, you don't exist. You go home to your little world. I'm like, I can't imagine the last time I was able to leave school that early, or not have a parent call me on a Sunday night and say, Coach, where are we going? What do we have? What do we got this week? It says, hey, you people complain. Let's complain about the 25 cents an hour they pay my coaches to be here in the summer. Nobody gets that stipend. I know, I had one player who played for Derek, was a DB for him, that wanted to come coach with us at Pope John. And first thing he said when I told him, I said, dude, we might be able to give you $5,000, which is pretty good for a position coach. He's like, Coach, I need at least 50.
You're like, what?
I said 50.
Yeah, me too.
I said, yeah. I go, what do you think we make? He goes, well, I know what you make at West Orange. I said, no, I make that as a teacher.
Right.
Football is different. Football is very short. He's like, well, I don't believe you guys only do it for $5,000 to $10,000.
Like, yeah, we do.
I said, we do. We still want to compete. And when you're my age, the only way I can compete is through coaching. Like, I don't live through my kids. They do their own thing. I compete Fridays and Saturdays, whatever sport I'm coaching. And that's it. That's what keeps me. I don't have, like my dad, I don't have another hobby. My hobby is, you're not going to see Jim Matsakis with Dave Albano mountain biking anytime soon, because that's Dave's hobby. And he's
is that what he's doing now?
Oh, he's always done that. It's been like a closet bike guy. So when we're drinking and doing our cigars, and I've became really good friends with him since '99 when I moved here, because funny story about Dave is Jefferson actually offered him the job before I ever came into the picture. And they called him and said, hey, there's some guy from Kansas. If he passes his praxis, we're going to offer him the job. Would you be interested if he doesn't pass his test? So 2 years later, I meet him at a Morris County luncheon. He just got the job at Par Hills. I get introduced. He comes up. He goes, you're the asshole that took my job. I said, excuse me?
Yeah, you've been boys ever since.
And then he told me, and we're like, actually, he's probably my closest friend in New Jersey. And it's like, but we talk about things that have gone wrong, kind of like you brought up earlier. And it's just like we stay in it because in our warped minds, I think we think the longer we can hold on, maybe there's some hope it circles back to what's right instead of everything that's going wrong. Because when you lose these young coaches, like the kid at Randolph, I don't even know his name, he's only there 2 years. There we go. Did a great job.
He did a great job.
Yeah, now he's going back to High Point.
And then the guy at Hunterton Central or North Hunterton won a state title, gave it up. And they're all using the same thing, family. I'm like, bro, you're the head coach. Make up your own schedule. Like, how can you have a family issue when you're the head coach? Like, when I was an assistant in college, if Mangino called me and said, hey, coach, you got to go to the airport, pick up the 8mm. I'm getting coffee on the way and I'm gone. Now it's like, I want a title. I want this. I want that. And it's just like we're losing good young coaches because the parents are so unreal.
Right.
And
when they say family, they mean I don't want to deal with the bullshit anymore.
Yes. It's not my family. It's you all.
Or family.
And it's like they're winning. Like, it just blows my mind. And the sport is losing. I mean, even the kid, I feel bad when I say kid, like Jerry, who I replaced at Jefferson, did a great job. I mean, he was a great player when he was at Opacon, and I coached against him. But like, what ran him out of a good situation? One, he knew coaches don't leave programs when you know you're going. That Jim Matt Sakis is the only one that leaves programs better than they were, and you can research that one. Go to Butler, we go to the finals. 4 years later, they're winning it. West Orange, we do our thing, start all the young kids, we leave. 4 years later, finals. Jefferson, same thing. Maybe I need to leave now, come back and forth. I don't know. But it's just like, I know we're doing what's right because, one, I'm big on building the message.
Yep.
And getting them to understand. I am a 1980. We run an 80 system. It's just disguised with all these cool terms, you know. Right. I don't use the word RPO because I don't want a 14-year-old thinking he's in charge. Yes. But they know my options we give them. So, you know, it's kind of neat and just trying to get this new generation caught up, but it scares me, the good guys that we're losing, and it has nothing to do with knowledge of the game. I think clinics need to be revamped.
Yes.
You know, I remember my father, and I should have brought it down. I have a class. They used to do the National High School Convention in Atlantic City. And I think in 1962, I got to look at the class, you had Vince Lombardi, Woody Hayes, Bear Bryant, and George Allen was with the Redskins, I believe. They were keynote speakers at the convention in Atlantic City. I'm like, holy, now we just get the Rutgers staff. Not that that's bad, but
you make that's a great point. The last great clinic, I haven't gone to any in probably 2 or 3 years, but before COVID, it was a couple weeks before COVID happened. There's this guy, Connecticut runs. This guy in Connecticut runs the Nike.
You went there? Yeah, the Nike one. Yep, I remember.
Yes, so I went to it, and they had Ed Orgeron, Dabo Sweeney, and the quote unquote undercard was the Iowa head coach,
her friends,
right? The UConn head coach at the time, Randy Edsall, right?
Oh, okay.
I was a bunch of guys. It was a bunch of So Randy Edsall, I go and Randy's still the head coach. I know Randy pretty well. He was right after Skip, and just from over the years. So I'm like, sitting on Randy. So everyone's bashing Randy because Randy's, his second round at UConn was not what it was the first round, right? Yeah. And maybe he wasn't putting in the same level of effort. But I never seen him speak on a clinic, And he's a DB guy, and he talks. He did the whole DB talk and the different coverages, and I mean, I was just floored. I said, "This is why Randy Edsall is where he is." Like, this guy was breaking down not just DB play, but the coverages and when you utilize them, and it was so good. I was writing copious notes on it. I went. I knew Randy, so I talked to him after, and. I said to myself, I was like, Randy Edsall is a brilliant guy with the defensive backs. How many of these clinics would be great if we would have Randy Edsall breaking down DB play, Dabo Sweeney breaking down wide receiver play, which is what he did that day. Ed Orgeron broke down. They were the two big speakers, Sweeney and Orgeron. But Orgeron, the whole clinic he spoke on after he said, we won the national championship. It was right after he won that. He did an hour and 40 minutes. He was supposed to be on there for an hour. He did an hour and 40 minutes on defensive line play, and specifically just technique on the defensive line. So he was literally walking through everything. And I can tell you that whatever guys were in that big auditorium, everybody was at attention. It was so good. It was so detailed. And you don't have that anymore.
You guys don't want to do clinics, man. They don't want to go there. They don't want to do this stuff. It's all online, so they just feel like whatever.
That's what changed. The COVID changed and made the clinics go online. That changed.
I agree. I just miss, again, I know I'm dating myself, but like the old stories from coaches where like you go to a hotel and you smoke cigars, and the biggest learn was when the clinic's over, you're literally in a lobby till 3 a.m. with a chalkboard and drinks and beer. And again, I'm not promoting all that stuff, but it's what clinics used to be. It just doesn't happen. Now it's, hey, let's go to Atlantic City, where not only am I not going to learn anything, I'm not even going to hang out with my peers because I'm only with my coaches and we're all drunk at the casino doing our thing. And it's just like, okay, the best clinic is the one that's not in Atlantic City, that has, you just go somewhere. It's a hotel with football guys. And you're right about Ogeron. I remember doing a clinic at FDU, and he was a speaker, and there was a O-line coach from Syracuse at the time, and he was doing O-line technique, and Ed was in the crowd. And next thing you know, it's full bore one-on-one at Ogeron against this guy. And shirts are being ripped. He's going, oh, go ahead, grab me. I'm going to do this. And he's like, I'm like, where am I? It was like awesome. And this would have been like 92. I was right when I was at Wagner College. And I'm like, this is cool. Again, it was a little clinic, but the knowledge and the one-to-one that you would get just doesn't happen. Now it's like, the speakers come in, they talk, they give you their 5-minute, here's my business card, email me, I'll send you what I got.
Yeah, like you don't even have to take notes because everybody wants to send it to you.
Karsic and Mielo used to run a great one too.
Yeah.
Remember that one used to be a great one.
Yeah, they did a good one. There was a good one. Even the guy at Bob Valley, I think, used to run a clinic.
Bob Valley used to do
that was a good one. There was
Stengo used to do a great one with the O-line.
O-line. They're there, but it just seems like I think there's not enough young coaches that give a crap that like right now want to go out and perfect their craft.
Absolutely.
And that's where I have
they just want titles. They want to,
and that's where I have a problem. Like everybody wants to know, why have I never had coordinators? I don't want anybody to know who, because I don't want them I don't want anybody else to take the fall for me. Like if you want to be a coordinator, you can call yourself that, but you don't have to be. I'm still running everything.
Right.
And it's just like, here's your script. And, defensively, I've been fortunate because I've had guys that I've been with long enough. Like now back at Jefferson, my D coordinator, I hired in 1999 the first time I was there. And he's managed to stay the whole time. So having him back gives me the freedom of, dude, Billy, you got the defense. I'll rock the other 2 out of 3. Maybe get Derek to come back up north and coach specials at Jefferson Township, but he's not leaving the shore. He's living the dream. He's not coming back north of 80 anytime soon. That's all right.
Shore conference defenses don't adjust.
I'll just go to our house in Manasquan when I want to see you.
Yeah, that's what I told you.
That's what I get. What do you want, baby?
Okay. Well, Coach, we don't want to. We've taken 2 hours of your time, which, by the way, is fantastic.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Put you automatically in the top 3 of time we've consumed. So, we've robbed you of 2 hours, but it's been phenomenal. I mean, it's been great talk with you, and
Coach, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I mean, like it's anytime you ever want to come on, like I think we're gonna have to bring you on with a couple of these guys all at the same time and just do a little.
I think it'd be awesome. Like, you got to get Fusco on. He's one of the best. Like Daryl does a good job, and he's talk about keeping you captive. He's one of the funniest. Oh my God. And he knows football, which is a surprise because I used to think it was always just a goofy dude with great players. He's actually very knowledgeable. He knows.
He knows his shit.
He knows, and he's smart enough to get out of the way of his coaches.
Well, and I think that's like when we were at that New Jersey, Football Coaches Association, like, and his whole, like, you look at the slate and you see Mountain Lake staff speaking. That just tells you a little something right there. You actually hear them speak. And you can tell each one of those guys has that full responsibility underneath his umbrella, but he is very much you do your thing, you do your thing, but those kids all buy in. So
yeah, and he got that from Wilkins, and
Yep.
it's just like the machine rolls on. And usually, Lenape Valley hired a guy that worked for Smolin. I don't know if Ridgewood did. Did he work for Chuck, the new coach at Ridgewood?
I'm not sure.
Who's the new coach at Ridgewood?
He got it last year. I've been out. I haven't played him in a while.
We had a guy that was there, but then Chuck came back.
Yeah.
Right.
And he went somewhere else, but I don't know if I'm not sure. I haven't looked at
that's all right.
I mean, Ridgewood has that system. That thing has been rolling.
Yeah.
I actually student taught at Ridgewood. That was by the way what finished me off for wanting to be a teacher. Even though, by the way, Ridgewood, I mean, when I say it was easy peasy, the guys are great because Chuck John, he was great with me. And the guy who was my student, the guy who was whatever they call it, your mentor.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was older than him, by the way, but he was my mentor. He was great. And I thought, but I realized that I loved what I was doing already. And I was like, I'd rather do that. And I loved coaching, but I didn't think I wanted to sit in class all day. I just, that was really kind of.
Well, that's like my three brothers. They'll never go to high school because they can't imagine sitting in a classroom.
Yeah.
And for 8 hours every day doing something that's not football.
That was what went through my head as I was sitting there, and when I had to climb the I was doing gym, and I had to climb. They had made me climb over a ladder with everyone holding it by ropes, and it was a truss thing.
A truss thing.
Yeah. So here's the funny thing about it is this is what I decided. There's no way I'm doing this. So I'm doing it. I taught it all, and it was great. And every kid went over. My mentor goes, "Now, Coach Schuman, you got to go over." I said, "What?"
You're like, that wasn't part of the plan, buddy.
I was like, I don't trust the kids.
Yeah. You're like, absolutely not.
So I go over. As I get over to the other side, I get over to the other side of it, and I did. I was a good sport about it. Came down the other side. I thought, there's no way I'm doing this for 20 years. No way.
Oh, there it is.
No way. Someone's dropping me at some point in this.
That's funny.
No way I'm doing this. But it's kudos, obviously, to you and Derek have taught forever. It's really the most important thing. It's just for me, I was just like, it couldn't be.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm getting to the point where I don't know. If I didn't have the little ones, I probably would just be doing the DJ thing and coaching football only. But I still got a long time with the youngest. I got to coach little Manny.
That's it. All right, Coach. Well, we'll let you go. It was great having you on.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, take care, Coach.
Thanks so much.
Okay, take care.
Bye. All right, that was phenomenal.
Trip, bro.
Oh wow. Can you see I'm curious if you're able to see the number of continuous viewers at the same time. Oh, I guess so.
I only see how long we went for.
Oh, you can tell only
a lot. I see a couple people in the chat. Clarence Williams the 5th. A couple Asian hit individuals.
I see that. And then some guys
_ football. Hey man, it's a couple people, but I can't see any of the viewership.
So it's interesting. I guess I'm maybe at the administrator. I see.
But now you see though, right? When I talk about when you're like, when you call offense, you're this way. That's exactly why I'm that way. It's because you can see his whole philosophy is built off of, dude, we're doing this, and this. I don't care what you do, and he's not bullshitting when he's talking about, hey, you have 17 guys for the defense, go put them out there wherever you want. I don't really care. And people look at it like he's crazy. And it's like, what are you doing? You're only playing against 11. But practice, he's like, dude, I don't care where you throw guys out there. We should still be able to do what we do and time it up and do all that other kind of stuff. He's 100%. That's what he does. And that's, you can tell why, some people don't like what he does, is because he's going to give it to you the way it is. And that's kind of, there's a certain type of kid that either jumps on board or either doesn't. And if they do, it's a hell of a ride and you learn a shit ton. And by the time you get to the next level, it's all there for you. Right. But some of these guys just can't,
I think two kind of sides of football, right? Like where we are and Coach Matt Sakis and Nymphius and Dunn and that style of football, move fast, play hard, and then
coach on the fly, like just like nothing. You don't really gonna dwell on anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, just next play, because just like football, next play. Like,
and then there's the other system, which is complete counter to what we do, which
slow it down,
I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it. I wouldn't be able to. I've never, like, when I've been an assistant, I've always chosen the places that have kind of been in line with. The only place I didn't choose, the first one, was Saddlebrook, because
just going home.
I was going home. I was lucky. It was one of the great learning things, because I learned.
And you probably learned more from that experience.
The triple option.
Oh, absolutely. And I look at my stops too, because I've been at a lot of places at this point now. Some because I chose to leave, some because, I didn't choose to leave, and it just happened that way. But I've definitely taken something from every place I've been. And I think, I've worked at different size schools, private publics, right? Like different, whether it was a football place or not a football place, whether it was, there's a lot of intangibles that you take from where you actually are in that school. And then, some of them move, like you can keep those same values as you go everywhere, but you have to make little changes depending on where you're at and what's going on.
Oh, no doubt. 295 continuous viewers. I'm assuming most of that's the Twitter, but
spring break's a beautiful thing.
Spring break, somebody needs something to do.
Yeah, well, these guys are mad as hell. It's going to be raining all day for the next couple of days. Pissed.
Oh, is that what it's going to be the next couple of days?
I think I saw rain all week.
Oh gosh. Well, all right. Let's get it ended and rolling, and we'll go from there. Good. Great break podcast. I'm sure we'll have a lot of night. I can't even keep up with all the. I'm trying to get clips out. There's so many good clips. I can't even do it quick enough. Like, I have and then I
loaded you up this week.
I have 30 clips from Brenneman. I haven't got out. Like, I've gotten like a few here and there of each.
He did a good job. He cut a lot of his stuff up. Like
he did. He
cut it and used that content from for him. Like, good dude.
He's whoever he has doing his stuff is good.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. That's the way to kick off the week.
No doubt.